Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're at. So very exciting announcements today, specifically around the new economic model that has been created and formulated for Flux as we continue to walk through our rebranding, restructure, and relaunch of our project. So I want to start out today by saying that a lot of people are immediately, because of the space that they've been in, drawn to the fact that economic model changes are a bad thing. And in this case, I think these economic model changes are well overdue. And for what we're looking to do with the project, we need to have computational resources. Our goal is to continue to incentivize those who provide computational resources, participate in the system, and actually incentivize those to continue to grow the ecosystem as we spread out beyond just Flux into the world of DeFi and other chains with inter-chain operability. So without much to do, let's go through the presentation. So if you hadn't watched the last community meeting, I suggest you do that. Flux becomes a new cross-chain utility asset. This is the new economic model we will be reviewing today, and we will also be reviewing at the end some points and pieces about the upcoming fork on the 27th. So this is our agenda. We're going to recap of the proposal of the current model. We're going to talk about the rise of Flux. We're going to overview cross-chain utility assets. What is a cross-chain utility asset? Sounds like an awesome buzzword, but it's really not. It's highly functional. It's why utility assets were created in the first place. Flux, the asset, new and improved. A new economic model for success. And review all of this and distill what it means. As you know, if you've attended our other meetings, everything is about to change. The Zelle project will be retiring 2018 to 2021. All Zelle will be converted one-to-one to Flux. So if you have 100,000 Zelle, you'll have 100,000 Flux. The Flux project launches on March the 28th, 2021. Flux will be a new cross-chain utility asset capable of distribution, transactions, and interactions between multiple blockchains. And we'll talk about what those parallel chains are here in the next couple slides. Flux tokens are parallel assets capable of accessing and targeting DeFi functions, including exchanges, staking, lending, and liquidity pooling. These are important things. We continue to build this passive model economy where you can, as you participate in the ecosystem, whether you run a node or whether you're going to stake in Zelle Core or whether you're going to go into lending services, we're providing different opportunities for different people to participate in this new economic model. Additional assets at this time to be announced today are the Flux ETH, Flux BNB, Flux KDA, and Flux Tron. There will be a rolling schedule on these parallel assets. So it doesn't happen all day one. The 27th, you're not going to have access to each one of these parallel assets. We will be doing that as a rolling basis over the next year. So this is the new economic model, a way forward. What to expect from this? The goal is to reward for scaling and benefit both node operators and miners. Not only node operators and miners, but also hodlers, people that want to invest their resources for a better rate of return than sticking it in a savings account. We want to make sure that there is plenty of opportunities for people to use their money effectively. Snapshots on a monthly basis. Holders must hold their Flux rewards for lockups. You cannot, you can hold on any chain to receive the snapshot. I'm going to expand on this. Once the initial snapshot is done the 27th, that is primary snapshot. That's the first snapshot we'll do. We will then do a snapshot for each parallel asset after that. So if you get your snapshot on the 27th and you can go out and dump the market, you're going to miss 10 parallel assets. So the goal is to reward and incentivize individuals for running infrastructure and to continue to keep growing the overall decentralized computational network. Reward loyal holders who have been in the project and provided the necessary computational needs for the project with a focus on scaling. If people ask why we're doing this, and it's very simple. We plan to scale this thing exponentially. You're in a very unique, opportune time. We are beginning to have customers that are coming to us looking to scale, and we have to provide the resource to do so. So we're excited about that. And we want to make sure that we reward those people who have been loyal to us in the past 3 years. We want to create an opportunity for more exchange listings through easier listings of token, liquidity events, airdrops, and direct listings. Let's face it, if you're creating a parallel asset on a native chain as a token, it's a heck of a lot easier to list that on a larger exchange. It also is cheaper because it's something that they're already doing instead of a custom chain. And you can participate in different chains models. So essentially you can participate in DeFi and ETH and so on and so forth. So we continue to aggressively pursue those opportunities. And I will tell you today that we have an exchange already that has agreed to carry the parallel assets. So that's great news there. We want to focus a large percent, almost, well, plus 90% of the asset locked in nodes, liquidity pools, foundations, and reward programs. Again, the number goes up, as you'll see on in the next couple slides. However, the goal is to continue to lock those assets up so they can be producing passive income for whoever is participating in the network. There will be a large amount that will never leave the primary chain, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Focus on top exchanges that will add value to the project and partner with both the primary asset and parallel assets. So we just talked about that. I think there'll be an opportunity for these exchanges to participate and add the additional parallel assets. The catch with that is they have to actually be listed on that particular chain, that particular project. So for instance, if, I don't know, if DOT was listed on, or let's say BNB was listed on KuCoin, they'd have to have that integration completed before we could add that asset as well. We want to target DeFi and listings on the KDA DEX, Uniswap, and other DeFi projects that align well with Flux. Obviously, you know, launching on Unify, these centralized DEX, KDA, and what we're doing with them, this is the next level of DeFi. This is what DeFi really truly starts to become valuable. The ability to hold your asset in Zelle Core, provide liquidity, exchange and change on multiple DEX, and also have access to centralized exchanges as well is the holy grail. Miners will now receive pool rewards for mining and maintaining hash power to incentivize them to build more rigs. We want more rigs. We want our miners. Our miners are a very valuable aspect to this project. But what we want to do is we also want to have them put some skin in the game as well. So if you provide uptime to the network and we can validate it, we will provide you with additional rewards. And we'll talk about that as we start to look over the econ model. So we love our miners. We love our node ops. We love all of our peeps. Node operators will be rewarded at a higher percentage due to the commitment of project scaling. If you've never ran a node before, you're a decentralized systems administrator. It's quite a bit of work. So there's a little bit more rewards going to the node ops, but the block reward itself is halved to 50-50. So that's good news there. Flux holders will get 1 token for each 10 parallel assets. That is a ratio of 10 to 1. So essentially you will get one-to-one on your Zelle to Flux. And then for every parallel asset after that, you will get a tenth. An estimated 10 tokens plus the main chain scaled over several quarters. We've talked about this. We're initially releasing 4 in pretty short order. And the reason being is because we have targets for each one of those ones that we're releasing. So obviously it makes sense to release the KDA DEX because the KDA DEX is going to have a high amount of focus on being native inside of Zelle Core, allowing people to start trading right away. So this is what Flux looks like. So before we get into the economic model, I want to explain this so that everybody can understand it. One Flux is one Flux, and that resides on the primary chain. So if you look to the left-hand side and you see Flux, you'll notice that the arrow goes down to the Flux node network. You cannot run a node on any parallel asset. You can only run it on the main chain. You can only receive your rewards on the main chain. Once you've left the Flux ecosystem and move to the Flux BNB, Fluxtron, Flux KDA, Flux ETH, so on and so forth, you are not locking up computational resources. You're a trader, so you're on your own trading, not trading. So you're going to be trading on those networks, and you're responsible for your own income. If you stay on Flux and you provide computational resources, you will receive airdrops, such as what we have done with KDA. I hate the word airdrops. We'll call it distributions of KDA and other assets. You will also, if you provide ongoing computational resources and uptime, you will receive part of the block reward, and you will also receive additional Flux rewards for as we continue to build that out. So that model will, you'll see here in a little bit, we'll continue to keep rewarding above and beyond whatever it is. So eventually, someday, you'll see 50 projects that will be running on Flux, and you as a node operator will pick the 5 or 6 that you want to participate in. Miners this is not an uncommon practice for miners. Miners do what's called speculating mining, when they move to a project where they will be more rewarded than they were the last one. So essentially with the node network, you're going to be able to do the exact same thing. Say I want to provide my computational resources to Airbnb, or I want to provide my computational resources to KDA, or I want to provide my computational resources to another business platform that has came to the space. You'll be able to decide that as a node operator, and you'll be able to pick and choose what you think are valuable projects. Now, the kicker between these two is Zelle Core, and actually an application called Fusion. Fusion acts as a swap feature between these different platforms. Many people can kind of put their head around this if you say, the quick swaps that are in Zelle Core. If I want to move from Bitcoin to ETH, all I do is open up Zelle Core, I sell my Bitcoin, I buy my ETH, and it's all done in pretty quick fashion, hence the term quick swap. Fusion is so much greater, but essentially acts as that quick swap feature for Flux to move to its parallel assets. So if I have 100,000 Flux that I want to put on Flux BNB because I want to trade, I would go to Fusion, I would mint. We call it, the process is called minting. You mint the process, and now you have 100,000 Flux BNB. So again, if I have 100,000 Flux and I want to be in Flux BNB, I can go through Zelle Core into Fusion, mint that 100,000 that you have just minted no longer exists on the Flux primary network. It's just a placeholder. It's a smart contract. Now you have 100,000 BNB, and that's where you're going to Flux BNB, and that's where you're going to begin to trade. When say you're a very good trader and you come back with 110,000 Flux BNB, you will be able to go through Fusion. You will be able to go through Zelle Core, and you'll be able to mint your asset back to Flux. And now you will have 110,000 Flux on the main chain, which you can then lock up into nodes and so on and so forth. So why do we do this? Well, we do it because it gives us access to DeFi. It gives us access to DEX model exchanges. So Uniswap, KDA, and more. I mean, I could list them all day long. There's about 100 of them. They're all named after foods. So for whatever reason. It also gives us the ability to participate on the Fluxtron DEX model. And in ETH, we all know the power that DeFi has to offer. So this is kind of how the flow goes. Picture this in your mind as you're starting to listen to the economic model. So this is just one more on the rise of Flux. So the Zelle, I like to try to add as many visuals to these presentations as possible because I want to make sure that people understand it. Zelle is dead, Flux is alive, 1-to-1. Then you got your KDA, you got your Binance, you've got your ETH, you've got your Tron, so on and so forth. Each one of those parallel assets will be a tenth of a Flux. So you will be rewarded with 1/10 of a Flux. You can compile them back together again. You could take all of your Flux KDA, move it back to the Flux main chain, and stand up a node if you had enough. You can combine your Flux ETH back through Fusion, Flux BNB back through Fusion, Flux KDA back through Fusion, and now all of your assets reside on the Flux main chain. And we talked about this. The 27th will be when it's executed. We're going to continue to keep developing different projects. The one big kicker on this is you have to get your Zelle to a light address. So if you are holding anything in a private address, please get it to a light address. My suggestion is to send it to Zelle Core. You'll know you'll get your snapshot correctly and effectively, and your parallel assets can be minted directly in Zelle Core when they're ready. The one thing I want to say too is questions have come up about nodes. Do I have to do anything to my nodes? No, you're fine. We got that. That'll be part of the snapshot. So let your node run. Everything's good. Nodes will also change and become more relevant as they. I mean, I don't know how you can get more relevant, but they're gonna add additional use cases. And also the benchmarking will change slightly, and the new naming convention. So we'll talk about that. Okay, so without further ado, let's present the economic model. Give me 1 second. Okay. So this economic model, there was a lot of thought that was put into this, a lot of hard work, a lot of brains looked this over. So I believe that this is the way forward, and this is, going to be something that's amazing for this project. The one thing I want to start out by saying is there's a lot of people that look at the total max supply number, and they always are a little scared because they're worried about people, having too much and lowering the value of your current assets. This model was put together to essentially address that issue. So large lockups, the majority of it will never see the light of day as it's used for the swap features. But it is, for us, our goal is to continue to keep adding new node operators, adding new participants, miners to the ecosystem. And if we piss them off or they don't like the way that they're being rewarded, they'll leave. So essentially, we want to make sure they stay for a very, very long time. So the current chain of Zelle has 210 million. The circulating supply, 125 million. So that leaves us with an outstanding supply of 85 million. I think most people understand we have an emissions problem. This new economic model fixes that emissions problems, partly due to the 50-50 split of the block reward, but to continue to keep incentivizing and adding resources to the node operators as well. And we'll walk down through this, and this is the new Flux supply with parallel chains. So on the primary main network, there will be 125 million holders, 85 million outstanding, an airdrop to the foundation of 2.5 million, which will be locked up as we have in the past 4 years with the foundation. We're just replenishing it a bit. Airdrops for exchanges for listing is 7.5 million. This is important. This is one of the areas where we listen to the community, and we know we have to have resources to provide to these exchanges. The times are changing. They're not changing necessarily in the terms of listing fees or so on and so forth, but you have to have a very, very solid presentation to them in terms of how do we engage their current customer base, and part of that may be a mining a liquidity mining campaign. It could be an airdrop. It could be whatever that particular exchange has to do. So we have to have available and at the ready flux for that distribution. The next one is the natural supply and what the natural supply equals is the holders plus the outstanding plus the airdrop. So that's the 220 million. The next one is the swap supply. Swap supply is for people, basically stays in escrow and is only used when people leave a parallel chain back to the main chain. And that's going to be 220 million. So the total natural supply can only be there can never be more than this, is 440 million of the Flux asset. And what I did down here is I actually kind of laid out some projects and their max supplies today. So you look at ETH, there's no limit. You look at BitTorrent, it's a lot. Crypto.com, all the way down, and all the way down here at 4.84 is Flux. Now, the reason this number doesn't match this number up here, we'll get to that in a minute, because you have parallel assets added into that as well. The parallel assets, so main chain, one more time, we'll walk down through it. So we have 125 million holders, 85 million outstanding supply, the airdrop to the foundation, the airdrop to exchanges for listings, the natural supply of holders plus outstanding plus airdrops, holders, outstanding, airdrops, total supply. Okay, that needs to exist because you need to be able to leave this Flux main chain, and you need to be able to go into these other parallel chains as well. And we have a swap supply that matches exactly that. So that gives us a grand total of 440 million. The parallel assets look a little different. So they're at 1/10. So we're going to eventually add 10 parallel chains. And the flow is a bit like this. Holders, because these are in tenths, is 12.5 million. Outstanding supply, 8.5 million. Airdrop, 250,000. 750 for the exchanges. 22 million for the holders, outstanding, and airdrops. And then we also have the locked up swap supply as well for each one of the parallel assets. This repeats itself. So you think you'll get one Flux, 1-to-1, Zelle to Flux, 1-to-1, and then you'll get 1 to 10 on each one of the parallel assets. However, if you sell your Flux and you leave, you will not receive these airdrops of additional parallel assets. The goal is to reward individuals who continue to keep supporting the network. And we need to have instant liquidity on each one of these chains as well. That's why we are doing the parallel assets this way. We could, in theory, have everything packed into the main chain, and then you could leave the main chain and go to the parallel assets. We want to provide instant liquidity to these particular exchanges. And this is the model that we're doing. So for 4 months, approximately, we're looking at about 2.2 million. So, and in 10 months, we're looking at 4.8. Okay. So highlighted everything on this that would be locked. So people worry about, well, what if they're going to have all this extra, flux now, and they're going to dump it on our head? Well, that's couldn't have been farther from what we want to do. What we want to do is make sure that your investment is protected so that we can continue to scale our network. So these will be locked until the community agrees. The foundation will go into the foundational account. The airdrops for the exchange listings will be locked unless we present to the community and they agree to unlock those funds for a listing on an exchange. So we're going to involve the community in that process. We're not just going to arbitrarily pull out a number and say that, this is what it is. We're going to involve the community. The natural supply is locked and the swap supply is locked. So the swap supply will never see the light of day because it's ultra locked. It needs to be in existence. If every single one of these parallel chains decided to come back to the main chain, we need to have that available so that they could leave and come back again. And then we're gonna, and I'm sure you're gonna have tons of questions. So what I recommend on this is to take the spreadsheet, you think about it, and we're going to do an AMA probably Monday or Tuesday of next week to ask questions. So study it, take your time, ask questions. We want you all to understand it. It is difficult to understand this, but I'm going to bullet point again. Our goal is to reward and incentivize the individuals who are already providing the network infrastructure. Our goal is to make sure that they're taken care of as they continue to scale the network. They will receive additional assets. And our expectation is those people will take those assets and put it into the ecosystem to keep it growing. Like any project, that our goal is to make sure that we continue to survive for the next several years. So, we want to survive in perpetuity and build this thing into something that, we can tell our kids about. We'll jump down here a little bit and we'll talk about maximum circulation for infrastructure rewards. So this is new. So we have mining rewards that are specifically for miners. So miners get some too now. So they're going to get additional resources on top of what they're doing and their for mining. That's about 37.15% compared to about 62.85%. Our node rewarders get a little bit more because they have to provide a lot more computational resources and they have to be loyal to the network. So that's kind of the breakdown that we have. So in a recap, the total supply, 4.8 million. The estimated lock supply, 91%. Okay. I'm sorry, it's 4.8 billion. Estimated lock supply is 91%. Maximum circulating supply is 440 million. Sorry, I had million on the brain when I was thinking of this. And again, in comparison to other projects, you can look down. We're way down here, and the majority, 91% of this will be in locked different pieces of the project. So this is the economic model. I'll post this up. I'm going to pause 2 seconds while I bring the other presentation back up. So that was the economic model. And I'm sure you're going to have a ton of questions. It takes a while for people to figure it out. But once the light clicks off in the head, I think you'll be pleased with the outcomes. So now we'll talk a little bit more about the upcoming chain changes. So while I have everybody's attention and we talked about the economic model today, we want to talk about what changes on the actual chain itself. So the big thing was the disabling of Z addresses, Q2, Q3. We are going to continue to keep heading down that path. There's a lot of reasons why we're doing that. The biggest reason is we just don't use private addresses, and there are other projects that are doing that better than us, and we would we'll work with them in other ways. The block reward is changing to 50-50. We talked about that. Miners now qualify for rewards with consistent uptime mining. So loyal miners who continue to mine month after month after month will receive distributions because they are loyal to the chain. That's something new in the space. I know that pools have done this in the past where they do like a loyalty reward or something like this. This is actually coming from the chain, and that's kind of cool. As a miner, that interests me quite a bit. We will be removing the shielding function from node rewards. Flux rewards will not need to be shielded. These changes will make it possible to create and control Flux nodes 100% without the need of running a full node. You want to talk about making things easy. Holy cow. That is great stuff. We are going to develop a new liquidity pool for centralized and decentralized exchanges, and we are going to target major exchange listings. If we start to provide the ability for the users to provide liquidity to these decentralized and centralized exchanges, it kind of incentivizes them to be participatory and work with us. So I think we'll see some pretty decent sized exchange listings because we're going to be providing resources that they're going to need. A development of a new liquidity staking model for Zelle Core Swap Service Fusion. So we want to make it so that pretty much any asset, if there's a demand for it, we want to make it so that you can swap, you can provide liquidity for their swap function, whatever that is. For instance, if it's KDA and you have KDA and you have Bitcoin, and they're going to be accepting wrapped tokens as well. If you have wrapped ETH or wrapped BTC and you want to provide liquidity to them, you can do it right in Zelle Core, which is awesome. Expanding the staking as a service model. So you're going to see people that don't necessarily have enough resources to run one of these awesome nodes or mine, then there are going to be other options. One of the things we did was staking for a service, which provides you Zelle Core Plus for free. I think you could see that on different business models. And I think we have a couple that we are looking at in the future. We want to create Fusion, the app, which allows the cross-chain tokenization of these different chains, so Flux can run on many different platforms. My buddy Zellmate will be sunset. I will miss you, Zellmate. Volter, you made a good buddy for me, and I'm going to miss him. But Zellmate will be sunset. You export your private key safely and launch Zelle Core full node. If you're using Zellmate today to maintain your nodes, there's a handy dandy little guide on how to export your keys and then make sure that you launch your full node effectively so that it doesn't mess anything up. So look for that. Transfer all of your Zelle from it to a T address. We should be doing that probably now. We're at the beginning of the month, but or the end of February. But in the beginning of March, you really need to start targeting that. And we will be looking at a node halving for scaling, but that's slated Q3 or Q1, Q3 of 2022. And that date is nebulous. As we continue to scale, we're going to see, now that we have additional Flux that's in the hands of the people to run the infrastructure, I believe we will see our network continue to increase. That will give us more viability to offer up our services to larger companies. And I say companies because that's the key word. That's our target. We want to be the AWS of decentralization. So we will be going after large companies. Here's the new Flux node structure. It looks a little bit different than the old one. And I'm sorry if this is a review. If everybody wanted to stay and listen to just the econ, they can leave. But I want to go over this with anybody who hasn't caught it yet. So these are the new node structures. We have the basic is now the Cumulus. We have the super that is now the Nimbus. And we have our powerhouse Banff. It's still the Stratus. I'll probably have a really difficult time not calling it a Banff. I'm sorry, who you guys will have to work on me and make sure I call it a Stratus. Lockup requirements are the same for now. So as we continue to look at what the scaling needs are, we may reduce eventually as we move through our node halvening, we may reduce those lockup requirements. So if I have one BAMF and I have 100,000 locked into that BAMF and the halvening comes, I now only need 50,000, but the same computational resources. Now I have a decision. I have another 50,000. I can lock that up and create another node with the same computational requirements. And I am now running 2 nodes and they are providing double the computational resources. So that's essentially how a halvening works, and really in blockchain, really anywhere. The Flux network will be capable of any crypto or legacy technology related service, period. Let me read that one again. The Flux network will be capable of running any crypto, fintech, DeFi, whatever it is you want to throw on there, or legacy technology related service. So if you can Dockerize it, if it's already been built, if it's already been put in place, you can leave your centralized network and you can come to a decentralized network. If you can Dockerize it, you can put it on Flux. Cumulus can easily be run from home, and this is huge because we want to talk about making this more available to to all users. And the Cumulus node, which will be a storage node, will be able to be ran on a Raspberry Pi, an Android TV box with Ubuntu. We want these nodes running everywhere, and the storage nodes, which are now the Cumulus nodes. We have some really unique plans for these guys. We're gonna continue to keep building out some wild infrastructure. So decentralized, like Dropbox, we call it Fluxbox or whatever it is. I don't know. We'll probably come up with a better name than that. But anyway, it's like Dropbox on steroids, decentralized, and that helps to facilitate that. And the Flux OS will be updated to use the hardware available on the VPS VM computer Raspberry Pi. For example, if a Flux validator has 12 V cores, all will be counted and usable toward Flux. That's Trunk and Volter's brainchild. And I know Volter has sent pictures of him attempting to finish up the Raspberry Pi integration. So I'm pretty excited about that. We're going to buzz through the governance model real quick. And this is important because the Flux governance model is going to be how we govern this new massive ecosystem, because it becomes very massive. We're going from a basic, simple fork of Zcash to now a completely unique network that spans over 10 parallel chains into multiple facets and multiple DeFi projects and you name it. We can do pretty much any of that. And on top of that, we can run any stinking infrastructure we want. So if we want to stand Airbnb up on Flux, we can do it. So it's pretty impressive. We need a governance model because I don't want to be responsible for all that. So Flux will be governed by those who choose and hold the asset. So node ops will be the primary individuals that will be voting on the governance model, but we are going to give a voice to those who do not have a node. So there's a way we're working that out with staking for service. And, maybe if you have 5,000 in your wallet, you'll be provided with, one vote to be able to vote in the network. So we want to make sure that we include all 3 different people that are here, and that is our miners, our node ops, and our holders. I guess you could say 4 too, the traders as well that are trading. A new website will be created called runonflux.io, specific to persons and companies who want to host their decentralized network. It will look a lot like some of the other landing pages for, say, AWS or DigitalOcean or any of those. But it will have a uniqueness to it because you will have to submit a proposal and it'll have to be voted on by the community. Now, this is why autonomous networks work, is the community gives consideration to the projects that will benefit them. So they have to make it they have to make a few choices if you're a decentralized node operator, decentralized systems admin. Is this a project that's going to benefit the entire ecosystem? Is this a project that's going to benefit me personally, financially? Is this a project that I have in my ethos and I want to participate with, example, folding a home, and provide my resources for free? Those are things that we need to look at, because there will be projects that come here that, they will be highly monetized. And then there'll be projects that come here because they want to stand it up because they believe in what we're doing. So we have to remember there is a granting system as well built into this economic model, so that we continue to perpetuate the growth of the infrastructure. If proposal is accepted, the Docker image will be accepted and deployed on Flux. The person or company who has made the proposal will be notified to proceed with the payment of the utility asset Flux. Now, I had a really good question the other day, and somebody says, well, what if you got a company that wants to run on this decentralized network and they don't necessarily want to deal with Flux? How does that work? Well, we'll have an area where you can take a fiat on ramp. Perhaps it's, Stripe or whatever it is that they can take a fiat amount. And actually what it does is it purchases the asset Flux and the amount. So it locks it up. So, if it's $500, it locks up that Flux in $500, and then the transaction's completed. And we've essentially bought that Flux, and then it goes to the foundational burn address. So individuals who and the foundational burn address then rewards node owners with additional Flux for that particular project. Now, some companies will want to use, if you're getting into the crypto space, for instance, KDA wanted to use their own asset. It made more sense. So, we do an airdrop of or distribution of KDA every month or every week on Tuesday. All assets in Flux will be burned to the foundation. We talked about this. We want to have a perpetual foundation. We want to keep this thing alive for as long as we can, and continue to keep developing it, provide it to our children long after we're gone. So to do that, we will have a foundation. There are other economic models that burn it into the ether, burn it into the nowhere land, a wallet that somebody doesn't control the keys to. We're not going to do that. If it goes to the foundation, it's going to be locked up and distributed through grants and building anyway. So essentially, it's taking it off the market and not necessarily burning the asset. And the Flux governance model will be released formally within a week of the fork. So you're going to see a breakdown of what that governance model looks like. It honestly is a fairly simplistic first 1.0. We have lots of stuff we want to do for the next version of it already, but it gives us the ability to start to get the community involved in this process. And then the last thing I want to talk about today, and sorry I'm running on, guys, but I want to make sure that you all understand the magnitude of what we're doing with this project. All Zelle holders will now be Flux holders on the 27th. All Z addresses will be disabled from the Flux chain, Q2, Q3. That's about a 3-step process. New Flux node tier benchmarks will be launched on the 27th with additional requirements. Liquidity mining and Hummingbot and other platforms will be launched on the 27th as well. We talked a little bit about liquidity mining. We want to maybe be able to do that in a couple of different ways. You'll hear more about the Hummingbot campaign coming up probably within the next few weeks. Tokens will be given to Flux holders through the Fusion app beginning on March the 27th. The actual ability for you to get those assets, that first round of assets, it might be a few days after the 27th, but the 27th is the fork, and then people will start to be available to get it right after that. Block rewards from Flux chain, 50% to miners, 50% to Flux node operators on the 27th. We will launch Flux KDA trading when Kadena DEX goes live, Q1, Q2. So we're working kind of hand in hand with those guys to figure out exactly the best approach to that. But we want KDA DEX will be the native DEX inside of Zelle Core. And if you haven't played around with their testnet yet, I highlight it's. I think it's mainnet that you're actually using now. It's insane. It's insanely quick and it's cheap. It fixes a hell of a lot of problems in other chains. We won't mention who. Fusion enabling a change between Flux and tokens will be added to a swap service Q1, Q2. This is a big one for people that, we talk about being AWS in a decentralized manner, Flux multiport, and that'll be Q2. And I want to say that I believe that this is already done. So I think Tadeusz in his mad coding ability already pushed this out, or is essentially going to push this out. And then the big one is HTTPS secure websites on Flux. A lot of people ask questions. They say, can I run a website on Flux? Well, now you can. And I don't know what exactly this is. The guys tell me it's like the best thing since slice spread, but it's actually Flux Docker Compose, multiple containers. So essentially you can, instead of having one container in Docker, you can have one container that has multiple sub containers inside of that. I'm not a tech guy, so sorry if I butchered that, guys. What I'm really excited about is the launch of Run on Flux IO, so that we can start getting people to participate in the platform. They can start submitting we'll have a template-based application process that they have to go through to launch their application on Flux. And if it's approved, then they get to globally spawn. So it's going to be exciting. The Flux governance site app will be Q2, Q3. We want to make it easy for people to vote on these projects. So it's probably going to be tied to Zelle Core, maybe. We don't know quite yet how we're going to do that, but we'll make it very easy to vote. And the governance acceptance vote of Q3. So basically that means that we've tested it. The community is in agreement that it works as stated, and now they will vote to accept the governance model into place, and that will become the new autonomous network. Nifty gateway for holding and viewing Nifties in Zelle Core. So I don't know about these Nifty things, but I'm being told that they're like unbelievably amazing, and it's the future of these non-fungible tokens. So we're going to put it in Zelle Core. So you'll be able to view, you'll be able to create, you'll be able to share, and ultimately be able to trade your Nifties inside of Zelle Core. So Flux DeFi lending and yield farming. This is probably the one that I'm the most excited about, because I think the ability to bring people into Zelle Core and have them make passive income and continue to participate in the projects that they want to, and also in the lending model, that could be, that can be huge as well. So real excited about that, Q4. Well, you guys saw it, the new economic model. That's one we can tick off the list. You guys just saw it, and you guys it'll be posted, and you'll be able to give us information about how you feel about the economic model. We will release an aggressive marketing and PR plan. Currently, we are in the works with formulating that. I have released the very first version of the marketing PR plan a while ago, and I guess it was about a week or two. And if you haven't watched it yet, please watch it. And we want to really push this forward aggressively. Community dev development meetings. We now have a community meeting that anyone that's a dev that wants to participate in the project, the Flux project, we are going to set a day where you can come and you can give ideas, and we can start to build on this. So this has been a fairly interesting request, because I've got a lot of developers that asked about that. So I think it's going to be good. Today is just taking the lead on that, and I think it's going to really be awesome. I want to thank each and every one of you for staying for this. I know the economic model can be confusing at times, and I know there's going to be lots of questions. So please join our Discord. We have a channel called AMA. Drop your questions in there. We will compile them, and we'll go live this week, and we'll have an AMA. I'm thinking probably to live stream it. So anyone can participate and watch it. So instead of having to just be in Discord. So again, thank you to the community. Thank you for the opportunity that we have. Thank you for getting us to where we're at now. I believe that we are doing something that is unique and offering value to not only our generation, but the next. So guys, keep up the good work. Keep up the good input coming in. And we're going to continue to keep being the best project under the radar out there for a very long time, but it won't always be under the radar. So thank you guys and have a good day.